Matt Gelb joins us now. Matt, tremendous stuff last week down at the GM meetings, talking to Dave and Rob and even John Middleton there. It does seem on the heels of Buster Olney's tweet last night, Jeff Passan, you were kind of the first to put it out there. Alec Bohm is more or less, it seems like, on the block and can be had. What are your thoughts here with the third base position and Buster Olney mentioning Alec Bregman and kind of what's up in the air here?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot is undecided. Like, I don't know that it's necessarily like a Bohm or Bregman thing. And
Sure.
I think they've put a lot of guys out there. I think what they've talked about early on with other teams is a willingness to move certain pieces of the roster. Whether that's some realistic ones like an Alec Bohm, maybe a less realistic one like Nick Castellanos. I think Ranger Suarez, Brandon Marsh, Johan Rojas. I mean, these are kind of guys that they are looking to shake things up. And there are only so many spots on the roster where they can shake it up and get something decent in return. Like, there are players on the team that you don't want to trade. There are players on the team that you can't trade because of contract situation. And these guys that I've mentioned as possible trade targets, I don't know necessarily that they want to trade these players. I think though that they're looking at it in a sense of, if we want to shake things up, which I think they do. You guys are just talking about the idea of not running it back, which I think is certainly how they're approaching this. There's only so many spots on the roster that offer value to other teams where you can maybe shake it up. So I think the idea of wanting to perhaps trade Alec Bohm isn't because they don't like Alec Bohm, isn't because they don't think Alec Bohm can be a valuable hitter for them. I think it's because he might be a guy who gets them the best return and also gives them a little more flexibility to maybe fill out the rest of the roster.
So who, in your best guess right now, and look, the owners' meetings haven't even happened yet, who in your best estimation right now was on the opening day roster last year that won't be this year? Is it Marsh or is it Bohm or is it Ranger?
Probably any of those guys I mentioned. I mean, Bohm or Suarez, maybe at the top. I think because those two guys offer probably the greatest value in a trade with another team. Bohm's got 2 years left of club control. Suarez has got 1 year left of club control. And so a lot of the conversations that they've been having, I think, the Phillies, have been about like, okay, what's the short term fit and what's the long term fit here? Right? I mean, like, you're trying to think about 2025, but you're also trying to think about beyond. And maybe they've reached at least a decision internally, or at least maybe are leaning internally to saying, okay, these are guys who we like, but we might not be in a position to extend them long term. And if we've decided that we're not going to extend those guys long term, maybe it's best for us to see what we can get from them now and get a better fit for our roster, both in the short and the long term. I don't know. I mean, these are two guys who have been productive players for the Phillies. I mean, two guys with big upsides. We saw the potential of Alec Bohm in the first 2 or 3 months of the season. We've seen the potential of Ranger Suarez before. We also know, both the pluses and the minuses of these guys. And so I kind of understand if they are looking to move on for either one of those guys. I don't think it's a slam dunk, though, that either one gets traded.